Good morning, family, and welcome to today's Lessons for Life. Today is Wednesday, October 15th, 2008, and today we're reading in Genesis chapter 16. Now, there are 2 points I really want to bring up from this chapter. As every other chapter, I encourage you to read the entire thing because there's a lot of other stuff you can get from it. Just, in every verse, you can kind of pick up something. But the 2 points I want to bring up is, firstly, Abram and Sarai saw that they had not had a child born to them yet, and so the Lord had spoken to Abram in the previous chapter and told him that he was going to have an heir. And it says that Sarai approached Abram about going into the handmaid, and maybe a child would be born to them through the handmaid. And it says that Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. Now, as we always I mentioned before in the previous chapter, you're going to get to where was the initial mistake made, or initial problem that led to other things happening, was where Abram basically hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And basically, if you look in the structure and the order of the family, the man is the head of the household. And this reminds me a lot of Adam and Eve, where the Lord spoke to Adam and told him not to eat of the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then Eve took the fruit and she gave it to Adam, and Adam ate, so he hearkened unto Eve at that point. And the same thing is happening here with Abram, where the Lord spoke to Abram, but now Abram is hearkening unto what Sarai is saying, and then he goes into his handmaid and they have a child together, Ishmael. So that's one of the first things I saw, where in the order of the family, the male is the head of the household. And while the male is not always correct, because like for instance, am I always right, guys?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Is mommy always right?
No.
Okay. But ultimately, it's the responsibility of the male, and that's why God even spoken to Adam, God spoke to Abram to make that decision. So now, if he told them in the previous chapter that there's going to be a child born to you, then there needs to be no modification of that plan. You have to just be patient. That's the other point I actually want to go into, where you don't need to adjust the plan, or God's plan really. You just have to be patient until it comes into fruition. So that was those were the 2 points that I wanted to bring up from this chapter, about the structure and the order, firstly, of the family, where the male is supposed to be the one that's making the decision, and where it said that he hearkened unto Sarai was the first problem that actually came about, because the Lord had spoken to him directly. And then actually, if you go into verse 5, it says how even Sarai comes back and says that this affliction, it was upon him. So because, really because he listened to her, or, that why this whole thing came about. The problem started from that point. So even though there's a suggestion that's made by mommy, even as you guys know, I have to make that decision. Am I going to basically go that way, or am I going to go with something else? Or, if the Lord has spoken to me directly and told me, okay, this is what you're supposed to do, then that's the way you have to go. And you can't compromise it for anything, for anyone. Just like Abram should not have compromised. He shouldn't have hearkened to the voice of Sarah at that point, because the Lord spoke to him directly and said there was going to be an heir born. So no matter how old they gotten, they shouldn't have said, oh well, maybe we need to do this because we don't see it happening as quickly as we thought, or whatever. So that was one lesson. And of course, just to be patient and wait for the Lord, which is the other lesson. So that was it for today. Like I said, you can read other stuff in Genesis chapter 16, and tomorrow we will go further in Genesis. You create yourself a wonderfully blessed day today, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.